What is dining with dietary restrictions like when traveling all the way across California? In California, we drove north to south 10 hours broken up over 9 days, staying at 5 different hotels, but we ate gluten and dairy-free every stop along the way. I had nothing to worry about. We flew into San Francisco, where Nick's family comes from, and then made our way to Disneyland and beyond. The coast of California is truly a stunning drive, and I'm so glad we opted to make it a road trip. We saw scenic coastlines and canopies of forests, fields of crops, rolling hills, and wide open sky. Now, we're gluten and dairy-free and usually pescatarians, that's vegetarian plus some fish, with a few exceptions. We aren't as susceptible to cross-contamination as some folks, but we stuck to our rules, like only eating items fried in a dedicated fryer. And while we didn't limit ourselves to places with only completely gluten-free kitchens, there were a lot of restaurants with well-noted menus and allergen-aware options. We took Nick's mom, a true California girl, with us to her hometown in the San Jose area and went to Luna Mexican Kitchen at the Prune Yard in Campbell. It was a sweet shopping center with pedestrian-only walkways and charming shops, but it was clear most folks were here for the Mexican food. With an outdoor bar and sprawling patio seating that extended into the square, we didn't have to wait too long for a table, but it's worth noting that they don't take reservations. The atmosphere was perfectly Californian, with bright space and open windows. Not only was this place extremely gluten-friendly, with their handmade organic corn tortillas and dedicated fryers for the chips, but we were also incredibly wowed by the vegan options. The drinks were so pretty, and the non-alcoholic menu used seedlip spirits, my absolute favorite way to make a virgin cocktail. The veggie grill was a tower of goodness with cauliflower steak, portobello fajita, nopal cactus, and a whole giant sweet potato, plus a cashew chipotle crema that was spicy but so tasty. The kids were really thrilled with their enchiladas, and we added a huge chile relleno that put us over the edge. Everyone approved, and we left so full. Luna Mexican Kitchen is a definite 10 out of 10. And bonus, there's a playground for the kids to burn off a little steam before we get back on the road. As our travels take us to different cities and even overseas soon, I want to share with you how we research and prepare for our gluten-free travels. Make sure you subscribe for my upcoming videos about the steps I take and the rules I follow to travel safely with dietary restrictions. As we left, Nick was excited to surprise us with a stop at a mystery site, which turned out to actually be called the Mystery Spot. We pulled up into a redwood forest to check it out, but the place was surprisingly busy and all of the timed entry tickets for the day were sold out. Wah wah. So whatever this place is will remain a mystery to us. Have you ever been? We continued on to our hotel in Paso Robles, and the sunset was beautiful to drive through. The next morning, we only snacked a little bit at the Spring Hill Suites breakfast because we were saving room for our first stop, SloDoCo in San Louis Obispo. We had been following their beautiful donut creations on social media and knew that they had a number of vegan options, and out of those, a few were also gluten-free, with flavors that rotate weekly. We opted to send Nick in for donuts while we eagerly waited in the car. Even though the outdoor seating was inviting, demolished them.
And what do you donut?
They were good. A couple things to note.
First off, of the various flavors we tried, I would say lavender was by far the most interesting taste. I think the other thing that's worth noting is I think the base of them is all the same donut, and then they just vary the flavor by putting a different frosting on top. So don't expect the base of the donut to be at all different.
So these are not fried donuts. They're baked in a donut form. So you can tell that, here, see where you pick this up?
No.
That on the bottom, that was the top of the cake
I don't like strawberry.
when it was cooking in the pan. So I was looking on their social media and it does show some fried donuts. Those are the non-gluten-free flavors. The gluten-free flavors are baked in donut forms, which is fine. But, you know, a fried donut is kind of a unicorn in the gluten-free, dairy-free world.
Inside, they do keep the vegan ones in a very different display case, and they put the gluten-free ones on a very different shelf. So they seem to be aware. That's a good thing. On the downside, the oat milk is Pacific, so it's not gluten-free. So there you go.
It's still good. Yeah. If you don't know this flavor, it's Oreo. If you don't know why it's Oreo and I have no Oreo, I just ate the Oreo off the top. I have two favorites, the vanilla and the Oreo.
I do think there are some food dyes in those sprinkles, guys. To break up the drive and add a little fun to our day, we spent some time at the San Louis Obispo Children's Museum. From science to the performing arts to jobs around the neighborhood, there were lots of interactive play areas with props, costumes, and tons of opportunity for imagination. It is a lovely local gem. Then we headed to lunch at the San Louis Obispo Public Market. This beautifully designed complex contains a number of foodie finds and shopping opportunities, as well as some outer shops disconnected from the main building and a courtyard for soaking in the California sunshine. I was really coming to appreciate the indoor-outdoor style of California living. There they had Thai, bao buns, vegan cuisine, pizza, tacos, Nashville hot chicken, ice cream, and a great coffee shop. We got our lunch from Humble Oven, which was recently rebranded from this signage, for a gluten-free pizza, which we made dairy-free by leaving off the cheese. Then we found some upstairs seating near this huge balcony and a small playroom for the kids. It seemed like a true gathering space for the community. And these pizzas were so interesting. We got caramelized onions with grapes and balsamic for the adults, and a standard tomato and artichoke, as well as mushrooms and onions for the kids.
It's good.
How was it?
The sauce is really, really fantastic. The crust is good, and the veggies on top are really good. I decided to try all three and figure out which one I like best.
On the way out, we noticed that the Perfect Scoop ice cream stand offered Ripple dairy-free ice cream. I actually got a cold brew affogato. It was delicious. A surprising number of the shops in the complex were really well labeled, with vegan options and gluten-free options at almost every window. But Nick wanted a properly crafted coffee, so he walked across the courtyard to Kraken Coffee for an afternoon pick-me-up. We really enjoyed our afternoon at the San Louis Obispo Public Market. Back on the road, we saw some of the prettiest scenery yet. It's worth noting that in the past, we have used the Find Me Gluten-Free app to find a lot of our dining options when we're traveling. But for this trip, we had the most luck with plain old Google. We searched for highly rated restaurants and then restaurants with gluten-free options and looked for any crossover on those lists. It's how we had some truly incredible meals without sticking to specialty restaurants that were exclusively vegan or gluten-free. Both approaches work, but on this trip we were really happy with the results we got. We finally made it to Burbank. A short walk from our hotel, another Spring Hill Suites, we had dinner at Granville. The server was so incredibly gracious about our dietary restrictions and always double-checked things to be sure that we could have them. A little tip if you're traveling with kids with dietary restrictions: it's okay to utilize screens during the meal ordering process. It's important that you pay attention to details as you discuss things with your server to make sure the food you order is safe, so you need your kids to be occupied. You see my kids with tablets at the start of many of our meals for this very reason. Give yourself permission. The menus at Granville were well labeled, and the food was expertly prepared and flavorful. We leaned heavily into the veggies after all the donuts and ice cream and pizza, but they double-checked things for us, like the ingredients in the salad dressing, and that they have a dedicated fryer. Knowing that, we did order 2 kinds of French fries. The kids' menu options were very accommodating to even the least adventurous eaters, and were still gluten and dairy-free with a little modification. We knew that the next day at Super Nintendo World at Universal Hollywood would be a really long and busy day, so I'm grateful for a healthy dinner beforehand so we could fuel up and go get some sleep before the day ahead. In Hollywood and Anaheim, we took a 4-day break from the road trip to hit 3 of the most popular theme parks in the U.S. You can find multiple videos covering Universal Hollywood, Disneyland, and Disney's California Adventure all here in our California playlist. After all that park going, we were ready to reset with a proper dinner. Less than 30 minutes south of Disneyland, we stopped at Arc Food and Libations in Costa Mesa. The setting was trendy. Honestly, a little too trendy for us in our Disney t-shirts and kids in tow. The drink menu was impressive, and they knew how to craft a beautiful old-fashioned. But the small plates approach allowed us to pick a lot of veggie-forward options like asparagus, broccoli rabe, shishitos, and a couple types of fish. Everything was really well seasoned, and the corn relish on that fish was the superstar. The small cast iron skillets they were served in added an extra layer of richness to the flavors. After a couple days of uninteresting hotel continental breakfasts, you could only have a peanut butter banana so many times before revolting, we were excited to go to a pancake house with options for our gluten-free and dairy-free limitations. Richard Walker's Pancake House in Del Mar very clearly stated that they have gluten-free, nut-free, vegan pancakes and waffle options. So we got them in every possible combination, topped with strawberries, blueberries, cherries. We also added a little protein with this giant veggie omelet that we modified by omitting the cheese. We did double check that they didn't cook it in butter, but omelets are often a concern for cross-contamination if the cooktop or pans they're using aren't deep cleaned, so you keep that in mind if it's a concern for you. They did have a great story behind their coffee selection too, and we're pretty picky about our coffees. We did enjoy these. Richard Walker's Pancake House was so good. Usually gluten-free, dairy-free pancakes are really thin. They're almost like crepes. These were not too chewy, but probably tapioca because there's no nuts in the flour. But they were nice and fluffy and big stacks, very generous. The half stack that comes with the omelet was 3 pancakes. The full stack that we ordered was 6 pancakes, so that was easily split with the kids, but we could have done half the pancakes we ordered. They were so good. And the omelets were really yummy. They tasted kind of buttery. I was kind of worried there was dairy in them, but they said they don't put any milk in the eggs. There's no dairy on that. It's just the eggs. So far, we are really, really thrilled. Guys, what was the best part of breakfast? Everything. I also want to mention, though, because we do normally avoid soy, and today we weren't that specific. Once we saw gluten-free, vegan, nut-free, we figured there might be soy in them, there might not. So if that is something that matters to you, that's not something we asked about specifically today. So you'll just have to ask. Later that night at the Rancho Valencia Resort and Spa in Rancho Santa Fe, we met up with Nick's dad and stepmother for dinner. This is one of my father-in-law's favorite places, so we crossed our fingers that they would have options for our needs, and they did an incredible job. This stunning resort definitely feels like a vacation spot, but locals sometimes drop in for a meal or to play a game of tennis. The menu was well labeled, and a chef came out to speak with us about our needs. Now this might be the fanciest coloring page I've ever seen on a kids menu. You can't go wrong starting with guacamole. And we even had a whole conversation with the server about how their avocado trees are looking this season. And then, now this is a first for the channel, the kids got hot dogs without the bun and chips. Because they had kosher all-beef hot dogs available, the kids were able to have meat, which is a really rare occasion but fits within the fine print of our diet. I got a whole fish and was super impressed that they deboned it so beautifully. Often whole fish is a lot of work, but this one didn't have a single bone left. And Nick got these yummy fish tacos. I think that's the perfect final night in California meal. For dessert, we got cinnamon beignets, which were less like New Orleans style and more like powdered sugar covered shortbread, but gluten-free and vegan, thumbs up. The service was impeccable and gracious, and the setting was beautiful. It was a great way to wrap up our vacation before heading home, and I'm glad to know we'll be back to the Rancho Valencia Resort and Spa again one day. The next morning before our flight, we still needed breakfast, so we decided that Richard Walker's Pancake House was so good, we should get it one more time before we left the West Coast. This time we went to a different location in La Jolla, but the menus and allergen protocols were the same. They were busy on a Saturday though, be warned. We shoveled it in and headed to the airport. It was a really memorable family trip filled with some great eats. If you have a favorite California restaurant that we missed, leave it in the comments. And subscribe so you can join us for the next video, where we wrap up our California series with our day at Legoland. We are so grateful for you and want to do what we can to help you have an awesome vacation. See you next time, travelers.